The best way to rule and advance unstrained is to sow hopelessness and create constant mistrust, even if it disguises itself with the defense of some values. No, not a Twitter or Facebook comment, but a quote from the encyclical Fratelli Tutti on fraternity and social friendship by Pope Francis. Good afternoon. We're talking again today about Fratelli Tutti and the conference at the UN Geneva, organized in April by the Holy See and the Order of Malta.
Personally, I find the chapter on religion and fraternity particularly thought-provoking.
What the ambassador of the Sovereign Order of Malta to the UN in Geneva had to say further, now here in EWTN UN blog. In his encyclical Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis writes that he has picked out a piece of advice, one of the advice that already Francis of Assisi in the 11th century gave to his sisters and brothers. He, of Assisi, called "Blessed the man who loves and respects his fellow man, even if he does not share his opinion or faith." In April, the Holy See and the Order of Malta presented Fratelli Tutti for discussion at the United Nations in Geneva. Participants in the well-prepared online event included Cardinal Secretary of State Pietro Parolin, Cardinal Ayuso of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, UN Refugee Agency Chief Filippo Grandi, World Health Organization Chief Dr. Tedros, the head of the International Red Cross, the General Secretary of the World Council of Churches, the Rector of the Latin American Rabbinical Seminary, Abraham Skoka, he was my guest in the previous edition of UN Blog, and Ambassador Marie-Thérèse Pictet Althann of the Sovereign Order of Malta. In Geneva, good afternoon, Excellency.
Good afternoon, Christian.
I have asked this question many times. Fratelli Tutti reflects the values and teachings of the Catholic Church. Most of the teachings and values are not shared by the United Nations and other organizations that participated in the conference. What does the Order of Malta hope to accomplish with this mixed event?
The United Nations and its agencies are a perfect platform that illustrates the international community's diversity in all its aspects. The Order of Malta's multilateral diplomacy is therefore fully engaged in contributing its own values and goals to this international debate. Thus, we are able to disseminate our views, share our experience and expertise, and participate in the discussions on topics related to peace and security, human rights, humanitarian action, religious and interfaith issues. This event was an opportunity for the Order of Malta to emphasize its support for the Holy Father's call for fraternity and social friendship to build a more just, peaceful and inclusive world. This is in full accordance with the United Nations 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development, which pledges to leave no one behind.
Perhaps in 2019, the goal of achieving human fraternity seemed achievable. But now, in 2021, in a world behind a mask, social distancing and lockdowns, how can a global fraternity still be achieved under these restrictive conditions?
The blueprint laid out in Fratelli Tutti is even more necessary today than before the COVID-19 pandemic. Fraternity and hope can help overcome this crisis. The pandemic has brought out the need of every individual for human relationships. Humanity has realized that it is interdependent and that it can therefore only survive if we all work together to ensure that the dignity and rights of every person are respected. Even confronted with restrictions of all kinds, which restrain part of our liberty, we must act together. Consequently, the Holy Father's vision of an open world is more relevant today than before COVID-19.
Ambassador Pictet Althann has been the permanent representative of the Sovereign Order of Malta at the UN in Geneva for more than 15 years. She was previously Minister Councillor and Deputy Permanent Observer of the Order for 10 years and worked for the United Nations in Geneva in the 70s. In 2014, Pope Francis awarded her the Cross of Merit of the Order of St. Gregory the Great. And in 2015, she received the Cross of Merit Pro Merito Melitensi from the Order of Malta. In addition to her work for the Order of Malta, she is also president of the St. Joseph Choir in Geneva. Madam Ambassador, what appealed to you personally the most in the Pope's letter Fratelli Tutti?
I believe that Fratelli Tutti as a whole is a truly inspiring document. Personally, I find the chapter on religion and fraternity particularly thought-provoking. As was clearly highlighted by His Eminence, Cardinal Ayuso, during the discussion on the panel I moderated, and I quote the Cardinal, "We are all called to implement interreligious dialogue, which is today and in every place absolutely necessary," unquote. This is exactly what the Order of Malta is practicing through its worldwide humanitarian action and diplomacy.
On February 8th of this year, Pope Francis told ambassadors accredited to the Holy See that he believed, quote, that fraternity is the true remedy against the pandemic and against the many evils that have struck us. Fraternity and hope are like medicines that the world needs today like vaccines.